We have been living lives in uncertainties ever since March, which was almost 4 months ago. During this period of COVID-19, we have experienced many changes in our lives. We started spending more time with our loved ones and valuing the things that we took for granted before. At the same time, our life is filled with worries and uncertainties for our unclear future. Instead of seeing people's smiling faces, we see masks and distance among people. The busy cities that were once filled with laughter became silence and even intimidating. For many of us, it is the first pandemic we experience. As young adults, we usually crave for all of the going out with friends in this precious summertime. But nowadays, even going to restaurants have become an unachievable desire for many of us. Instead, many of us choose other ways to feed ourselves. We started ordering takeouts multiple times a day with all of the coupons that are offered on mobile apps. Other than the food that was created, we cannot ignore the waste that was also created during this process. All of the plastic utensils and bags and the burning gas during each delivery at this time period has put a huge burden on the environment. If we keep relying on deliveries and all of the plastics come along with our food, the future of food can simply become a production of waste. As time went on, many restaurants started reopening. After months of quarantine, people in these past months started choosing different types of cuisine to try. Back then, people had a very repetitive life and a schedule that restrained them from trying anything new. But now, they've started looking into the local restaurants and are willing to experience a different cultured dish. As for me, I usually choose Italian or Asian food for almost all my diets. But during the COVID period, I had more time to do research and think about my diet. I do not feel pressured by the time to make a choice in food. Therefore, I found that Mediterranean food is something that I'm willing to give a try. I ended up loving it. The future of food will represent the idea of globalization and people's appreciation to different cultures, starting from food ever since coronavirus. During the time period, we can also see the food safety change in the future after COVID-19. Before, the chefs and the waitresses did not feel the necessity to wear masks or gloves when making food or delivering food. Sometimes, many people's stomachs feel very sensitive after eating out, but not too many people care about the cleanliness of the food. Instead, we chose to trust them. Now, after knowing how much a mask can do in preventing unnecessary infectious disease, we have a better idea about what to improve in dining services for a better protection of the customers and the servers. We also realized that we do not do that much of the tipping anymore with the lack of access to the restaurants. Especially when we choose to pick up the food straight from the restaurant, we do not give tips anymore. Interestingly, giving tips is only a habit in America and some of the European countries. Asian countries like China do not consider giving tips as a part of the dining experience. Although giving tips means a way of expressing appreciation, we can also reconsider about a new way of dining. Will this raise the basic salary of the waitresses, or will this have a negative consequences in economy in the future? We're unsure about this. but the change of tipping in dining has occurred in past months.
After I left Boston for spring break, I couldn't come back to campus because COVID-19 became more widespread and campus closed. So as a result, I ended up staying in my family home in London. And then afterwards, me and the rest of my family ended up moving to my father's place in Korea. London was on lockdown and Korea is still quite cautious about social distancing. So naturally a lot of our coronavirus meals ended up being home cooked. My partner actually stayed with me in London for a while, so we cooked a lot together. Since London was on lockdown at that point and eating out was becoming more and more difficult. It was actually quite a lovely experience because I learned that cooking for and nourishing someone I love is very emotionally fulfilling. We also try to refrain from grocery shopping too often because of safety concerns. So we were always thinking of ways to use the same ingredients in new ways. So for example, we used a lot of the same sauces and vegetables we used in shakshuka and maybe like ratatouille the other day. I think being able to innovate and hands-on experience something in a time where almost everything just froze to a stop was very enjoyable and helped me cope in the time of coronavirus. Food was definitely a large part of healing for me during the time of COVID-19. So when I came back from Korea to London, cooking with family meant that there was an activity that we could enjoy together during lockdown. And also when I came to Korea, I was able to remember the taste or what Korean home-cooked meals tasted like. As a Korean living abroad, coming back to the food of my home country feels like I'm able to reclaim some part of my identity that I marginalized while I was studying abroad. If the pandemic continues into the future, which I think it will for a while, I think food will continue to have the power of bringing people together in such a difficult time and help people heal and help people cope like it did for me. And aside from a healing or coping mechanism, food was also a source of fun during lockdown when there wasn't much to do. There was a food challenge that was really popular in Korea during lockdown called the Dalgona Coffee Challenge. And I think this became popular abroad in many other countries also. But basically you stir instant coffee and milk and sugar, I think, into a cream. And then you put the cream on your coffee. I think the reason this challenge became so popular was because it was really difficult. If you're doing this manually, you have to stir the cream very quickly, almost over 1,000 times to get it right. I think fun food challenges like these give a sense of solidarity across different people during a difficult time, both for people doing the challenge and people watching the challenge. I personally didn't do the challenge myself, but I really enjoyed watching other people do it and seeing how other people's coffees turned out. And I imagine that the future of food in the time of COVID-19 has a lot of implications on the emotional value of food as fun.